Senator Mark Wayne Mullin joining me now. And Senator, we have a lot on our table today, and one of them is not just border security, but in this case, I would say it is ICE security for our law enforcement agents who are carrying out their responsibilities as an officer.
Yeah, David, what's really damning here is that the people who call on violence on the ICE agents have been absolutely silent about that, and that's the Democrat leaders. They have been the one that stirred this fire. They're the ones that have stroked the flames, and I would say led to this. And it's interesting because anytime there's ever a type of a shooting like this, the first thing the Democrat Party goes out there and says is, "We need gun control. This is why we need gun control." There's silence on this. Absolutely silent. And this was 100% a planned attack. It's been reported that they had tactical gear and they had a jamming device that would prevent their signals or cell phones from actually being picked up. So this wasn't some a peaceful protest. This was a coordinated event that when the officers showed up to help the people that were inside the facility, when they showed up from the outside, they literally got ambushed by two shooters that were in the woods that started firing at them. Fortunately, one of them was killed, and 10 of them were arrested, and rightfully so, being charged with, I think it was manslaughter charges on this, or attempted manslaughter, and yet the Democrat Party has still said nothing about it. But are we surprised? Because this lawless activity is what they received in their own hometowns, which most of these people are not from that. They're from a blue state from a blue city. When you start looking at their backgrounds, these are the leaders that have actually stroked these flames and that brought these people into this rage, that thinking that this is okay. And yes, the ICE agents who are officers of the law looks like they need protection at the same time, which is exactly why the president had to deploy the National Guard in L.A.
And speaking of Los Angeles, there you have the mayor, Karen Bass, and what a contrast between Texas as a state and Los Angeles, and I would say all of California, even given statements by Governor Gavin Newsom recently, that in the case of Karen Bass, she's out there yesterday going after ICE. They're bringing their protesters out. The videos are there for all to see, and they're trying to stoke even further violence. It's time to call it what it is. A frustration, Senator, that many Americans share is that in the case of Alvarado or other attacks on ICE officers, organizations are funding a lot of this, and the money has to be followed. There needs to be prosecution, whether through RICO statute, state or federal level, depending on the state or otherwise. What do you say to that?
Well, you're going to see it happening. What we don't have is we don't have Garland, and we don't have Director Wray running the FBI and the DOJ. What you have is you have Pam Bondi and you have Kash Patel that are leading the DOJ and the FBI. This is attack on federal agents. There will be a thorough investigation, and I will be willing to tell you right now, I promise you, this is going to lead to someplace. I want to debunk something that Karen Bass that has been saying too, and some of these other Democrat leaders. They've been saying that we're going around arresting immigrants. That is a flat out lie. We're not arresting immigrants. We're arresting illegal aliens. There's a huge difference between the two. Immigrants immigrated here to the United States illegally. Illegal aliens are crossed the border illegally. They didn't claim asylum. They have no right to be here. And unfortunately, a large part of the population is actually having violent crime activity on innocent individuals inside the cities, honestly, in their own communities, which are an immigrant community that they don't belong to because they're illegal. But the Democrats are not saying that part. They're trying to distort the picture of actually what the ICE agents are doing. The ICE agents are trying to restore law and order back to our streets and get the illegals that the Democrats allowed in by the tune of 20 million individuals over the last 4 years, and we're trying to get them out of our country. Why is it that the Democrats are constantly fighting back on this? You could go down a whole conspiracy road on that one, David. and we probably don't have time for that. But the fact is, the Democrats own what happened on July 4th and yesterday on July 7th with the attacks on ICE agents, because when you start working with these individuals that believe in socialism, they believe in open borders, they believe in utopia, that everybody can live in peace, which obviously they live in a town in a city that doesn't live in peace because they're crime-ridden, because it's ran by Democrat leaders. You stroke a type of mental illness that they believe is reality because they have leaders around them calling for the violence. What do you expect is going to happen?
This needs to be pinned firmly to the Democrat Party, in my opinion, and based on fact. During the Biden years, this was a deliberate policy shift, which changed the moment Donald Trump there wasn't a new law that you voted on. There was a new president who let the law be enforced and asked our agents and officials to go and do this. Within the big, beautiful bill just passed and successfully, thank you to the work that was done by you and others in Congress and the administration, more security, finishing the border wall, hiring new officers and Border Patrol agents, but also staffing the administrative part of ICE so that we don't have to shift resources and that they can get more efficient, including immigration judges. Those are great provisions when it comes to border security. What else in relation to border security is important to you in this bill?
Well, keep in mind that the Biden administration over the last 4 years gutted the ICE agents, gutted the retention centers, they gutted the Border Patrol, and they handcuffed, I would say not literally, but dang near, anybody from being able to enforce border law and border security, meaning that the people that were crossing, 89% of the individuals crossing illegal was detained and released into the United States on parole, which means they was never in a hearing, which they should have been, in less than 24 hours. And so the one big beautiful bill restored that. We put $46 billion to finish the wall. Now, this is the same wall that the Biden administration sold the material for literally pennies on the dollar. That was already pre-purchased to finish the wall. Now we're having to rebuy that same material. Instead of this just being an executive order in the one big beautiful bill, it is now signed into law. So God forbid something happens in 3.5 years, and God forbid we get a Democrat back in the White House. They can't stop this. This wall is going to be completed, and honestly, it'll probably be completed before President Trump leaves office. And then we put just over $4 billion for new agents, up to 10,000 ICE agents and those agencies related to ICE, because ICE isn't the only one going in and arresting illegals. We also use local law enforcement, and we want to reimburse local law enforcement that's willing to work with us. And you'd be surprised at how many police chiefs and county sheriff departments that are in blue states that are working with us because they are there to enforce the law of the land, and they go around the mayor, where the mayor, and sometimes even some governors, they won't fund their activities. So what we're doing is we're funding the activity for them so they can go in and help us. Plus, we're hiring new judges. We're streamlining the court system. We're those that had asylum cases underneath the Biden administration, because unfortunately the 89% that was released within 24 hours, these individuals had court dates that were 6 to 9 years out. Well, what Pam Bondi has done, because technically they're here legally now, unless they break the law, what we've done is we're having to track these individuals down, and we're moving up their court case because we're going through this much faster now, and of course, unfortunately, we're only getting hold of less than 11%. Actually, it's closer to 10%. Of the individuals that were actually asylumed here, because they gave out fake information, fake phone numbers, and there's no way to track these individuals. So once we contact them or try to contact them and say we're moving up your court date, when we can't get hold of them, they haven't reported their new address, their new phone number, technically their bond gets revoked, and so we can go by and pick these individuals up. So that's taking place on a very regular basis. That's all through the one big beautiful bill, what we call OBBB, and it's focused strictly on border security, plus restoring law and order and moving and deporting, arresting, and trying the illegal aliens that the Biden administration led into the country over the last 4 years.
My guest, Senator Mark Wayne Mullin from Oklahoma. Senator, with only a couple of minutes left, I'd like to also ask you about a couple of other things in the bill, not always get in the big news item view, but there's $12.5 billion for modernization of our ATC, our air traffic control system. Your state has a significant aviation industry.
Yeah, the air and space has become our second largest industry in our state, but also what a lot of people don't realize is in Oklahoma City, we train all the air traffic controllers across the United States. We have a huge facility there. And one thing you'd be surprised, when you go into these towers, they're using technology from the 80s, literally from the 80s. And instead of using a true GPS system that we all have in our vehicles, or using technology and AI that is relatively available on maps on your cell phones, they are still having to handwrite the altitude and location of these planes. In a lot of cases, drop them in a tube in this little like magnetic strip. Drop them in a tube that goes to the lower floor. That's the watchtower that watches them. Drop them in a tube, and then someone has to locate them on the radar system that looks like this old green radar system that you find from the very first Top Gun. And the systems just are outdated. Sean Duffy, who I saw this morning, and is a very good friend of mine, talked to him on a regular basis, especially since we're training the air traffic controllers. He had asked for slightly more than that. We wish we could have delivered that. He wanted 16, but we only was able to do 12 because of some, restrictions we have. But the 12 will be able to start going into these towers systematically and upgrading the systems to technology that every other aviation system in the world is using. I mean, we're behind, even though we invented the aviation systems and the aviation industry in itself. Canada is advanced past us. The radar system that Mexico is using is advanced past us. Europe, a lot of our planes that we're having right now is having to use two systems because Europe has one system, the United States has a different one. It's absolutely absurd that we've allowed it to go this far, and so this will put us in the driver's seat again and put us where we need to be. And luckily, we have an actual transportation secretary that knows what they're doing, not Pete Buttigieg, who obviously didn't even know how to. I don't know. I won't go down that road. I'll get mean if I say that. But he should have never been the traffic control. I'm just glad that we have Pete Hegseth, because that's our Pete and not Pete Buttigieg. We got the real Pete, and they had somebody named Pete.
Yeah, exactly, and I agree with you. We both won't go down that road. Senator, I do appreciate your time this morning. We're running out. I wish we had time to talk about the cabinet meeting today and your thoughts on that. But the president, unlike the prior president, will meet with his cabinet and even invite the American people in for part of that transparency on full view. Senator, thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir. Appreciate you, David. Bye.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullin from Oklahoma. They have a great aviation industry in his state, and it's going to be a big part of, look at all the things he just laid out. Getting us up to speed, modernized, effective, and safer.